Um, I think my biggest loser, or at least one of them, is a quarterback that a lot of people were hot on, and I still think that he is going to be a good pro quarterback.
Joe
I'm not.
Burrows,
I'm not.
his small hands.
Yeah, no, Joey Burrow, the biggest loser by having 9-inch hands. I
Yeah, he's
think
gonna
he
retire
dropped.
soon.
I think he drops his second round because of that.
No, I'm going
Really,
fifth
too.
round. I think
Fifth
he goes
round.
fifth round.
What about Mr. Irrelevant?
You guys better be
Yeah.
careful. Some people aren't going to be able to detect sarcasm. We gotta have some type of code word when we're being sarcastic.
People
Some
can't
people
tell
might
how
actually
we're
give us
going
Here,
a.
around.
here's the code word. We're just joking. Yes. But the guy I
Or if we
want to talk
say
about.
anything that ESPN would say, then most likely we're joking.
I have one thing, bro. How would you feel if you just wake up one day, go to your regular old job, doing your thing. Next thing you know, you get on Twitter, everyone's talking about your hand size. Man, that'd be a rough day. Like this guy only has
Here.
9 inch and three
Hey,
quarters
shout out to
hand
Joey
size.
Burrow to handling it like a champ though, and joking about it and saying he'll retire because of it.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
no, love the guy from it. But what I was saying
Soft.
is that oh boy.
He's letting it get to his head already.
I think I think one of the biggest losers from this draft. I still think he's going to be a solid quarterback in the NFL. But Jake Fromm, he might have looked one of the worst out of the quarterbacks that performed. I think the two worst ones out of the performances during the combine was Jake Fromm and Love out of Utah State. But Jake Fromm, average measurements and height and hand size, but that's what we were expecting. But what I really saw bad from him was his struggle by throwing the deep ball. The ball fluttered and was inaccurate when he really tried to force the ball downfield. We know his arm, he has decent range, but when he tries to go further than the range he actually has, it's a bad ball, and that's a ball that's going to get picked off in the NFL. And it looks really bad when he's trying to force it, and that's something that some people might have to be worried by. He didn't look bad, but on Thursday he got outperformed by most of the other quarterbacks, and I don't think he's bad, but he just didn't do as good as I think people were expecting him to.
Definitely. And I think it comes down to the fact that that's why they kind of tell you to be yourself. When you go to the combine, don't try to be somebody else or try to act like other players. And I feel like that's what Jake Fromm did was he tried to do too much. He didn't just show what he can do. He was trying to just go out there and do what he can't do. And so that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to show teams what you're good at. And obviously you're going to have time to work on it when you get drafted. But going out there and kind of just not literally, but throwing the throwing your draft stock away, trying to do too much.
That's exactly what it is. A second loser, if we're talking about cornerbacks, Mississippi State's Cameron Dantzler. Um, the problem with this is that he doesn't. This performance in the combine doesn't necessarily make him look bad. It's because these drills don't really fit him. This is a guy that plays with a high level of physicality. So having these drills on air and just other like speed and agility stuff, that doesn't help show the player that he is. The scouts like his size, but what did hurt him was put slow in quotes because of course it's still very fast, but a slow 40-yard dash at only 4.64. He had a decent showing by catching most of the passes during his drills, but the thing is, um, he might have dropped out of the top 50 with this performance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
wouldn't be surprised by that because a 4.64 for a top corner, there's no way. I mean, you'd have to be getting a pick six like every single other play for that to be justified. I mean, no one's going to look at a 4.64 and be able to justify that within a top 50 pick. There's going to be too many other talented individuals available. I don't care how good the guy's tape is.
yeah. But one thing I do want to point out from what Coach Bruce Arians said is a guy could come to the 40-yard dash to the combine and run a 4.2, but when you look at his film, he runs a 4.6. So I do think film does come into play. Obviously, the combine is a big thing for teams and getting that last look at you before they draft you.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think that is something that you can go by is film's not going to lie because you have hundreds and hundreds of plays to look at of he did this here and he can catch this guy and this guy ran this. So it's definitely something that you can look at.
The only thing I have to add to that is I don't take liabilities with the top 50 pick. And a 4.64, I do agree with you. You'd have to look at that tape and see, is he as slow as he ran? Because a 4.64 is beatable in the NFL. I mean, by a lot. So the top tier guys are going to be able to fly past a guy that runs a 4.64 if he runs that slow in a game.
Definitely.
Yeah, that is a good point right there, Blake. One of my final losers. One of the last ones I want to talk about is Tony Jones, the running back from Notre Dame. This is another guy that kind of came in Cameron Dantzler's position. He's a power back, and you can't really show power against air. He looks slow compared to the other backs, even the other power backs. He has slow 40 at only a 4.68, and he lacked explosiveness with only a 32.5-inch vertical and a 9-foot 11-inch broad jump. He didn't look really as fluid or quick as the other running backs, and that's going to hurt him. I still think he's not a quick back. He still looked decent coming out of the backfield, looking as a receiver catching those balls. But this does hurt him. I don't think it really should hurt him as much because you still have to look at all the film, and this is a guy that can run people over. But the combine just isn't good for guys like this, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think there should be more of a, style-based drilling because it kind of makes. I mean, unless teams just go out there and just outright know this guy's a power back, I'm not really expecting too much out of him. And the combine,
that's what the film comes in for. That's why
that's
why
why
I have
the
the
film
senior
comes
film
in. Because it's
or
like
the
if a
Senior
guy,
Bowl as well.
yeah, it's like if a guy runs a 4.7, but he can guarantee that he's going to break 3 tackles or run, you kind of don't really pay attention to that 4.7 anymore.
Right. Big difference. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean,
we all know Jerome Bettis wasn't the fastest man in the world, but that dude ran
but
people
he was
over.
A bus.
But the thing that does alarm me is if a guy cannot make somebody miss, whether it be running him over, whether it be making him miss with elusiveness. There's got to be a trait besides, straight line speed is fine, right? The faster you run, the better. But you got to have that wiggle. You got to have that, power. You got to have something that, I mean, take Josh Jacobs, for example. Last year, I can't remember the exact time he ran, but I think it was 4.6 or above. Mm-hmm. And dude's a beast. I mean, I have no complaints. Do you guys have any complaints? I thought he made a couple, not a couple, but several very, very amazing plays last year.
Yeah.
So your 40 time for a running back, I don't think it's necessarily the most important thing, but you do want to see some athleticism. You want to see some agility. You want to see some elusiveness, something that's going to, translate to on the field making getting extra yards. Because what you hate is a Latavius Murray, sorry, my guy, that just falls at the line of scrimmage. Or even worse, a Bo Scarborough. He just literally gets hit with an arm tackle and just falls to the ground.
Can't do that.
Can't have that at the running back position, man. It's just awful. You got to have those guys that when they get hit, the Marshawn Lynch's, man, the guys that when they get hit, they just started getting going.
They bounce.
Yeah. Especially in the NFL, you can't. You have to be able to make people miss because the tacklers in the NFL are, of course, top in the world, and those are the hardest ones to stop.
Yeah.
I think you guys want to talk about Jerry Jeudy possibly being a loser out of this combine. That's kind of a hot. That might be a little bit of a bold take. So let me hear it.
It's more not. I wouldn't say he was exactly a loser, but I would say if I had to choose between winners and losers of the combine, I would definitely put him in the loser bracket, just because based off of, I mean, just like what we were talking about with running backs, based off of his play style, it is really his combine really didn't affect based off of film where I think he's gonna go. But when you put him next to guys like CeeDee Lamb and Ruggs, who went like CeeDee Lamb showed crazy in his catching and was amazing. He had his highlight. Ruggs speed, just
kind of like Jake Fromm, how he looks good, but just compared to everyone else, he looked behind.
It's just like he looked behind, but it's like when you look at film, it's like okay, but I see where all the stats that he showed in the combine are perfectly fine where they're at. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, and I don't think he's not going to be a good receiver in the NFL. I'm not saying that he's going to drop out of the first round either. I'm just saying that when it's coming to team selecting who they're going to pick here, if they're going off of the combine, Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb look like way better options right now just based off of the combine. So if we're going winners and losers of the combine, I would say that his draft stock definitely probably took a drop. But by drop, I mean like probably like 2 or 3 picks.